Welcome back to What's New in the Lou with Alexis Zotos, presented by Kaldi's Coffee and recorded right here at Bucketlist Podcast Studios. This is your can't miss weekly podcast, helping you stay in the know in St. Louis. We're talking the best new restaurants, the can't miss events, and of course, the people that are helping make our region the best place to live and visit. Now, I don't know about you guys, but fall is here. I am a summer girl, but there is something very special about fall in the St. Louis region. We've got jam-packed weekends, cooler temperatures, and of course, fall releases, and especially when it comes to local craft beer. And so that's why this week's guest is a fantastic person to talk all about it. We are joined by Lauren Patten, who's the owner of Old Bakery Beer Company in Alton, Illinois. Thanks for joining us. So before we dive into like all things Oktoberfest and cozy beers, let's just start with who you guys are. You are the only organic certified brewery in our region, right?
Yeah, so we're one of only 40 certified organic breweries in the country out of almost 10,000 operating breweries. So it's definitely like a very small niche. But when we opened, we knew, well, craft beer was like popular enough at the time. There were enough breweries. We knew we needed a niche. But also it was just something that's important to us, like in our daily lives, to like buy organic and support organic farmers. But yeah, I think it's kind of...
What does it mean? Like, what does it mean to be an organic brewery?
Yeah, well, and it's an interesting question as well, because most of the time I feel like people think of organic as health food. Mm-hmm. Like, we're talking about beer. We're talking about alcohol here. Like, it's not a health product. So there are a variety of reasons that we choose to be organic. And basically, in terms of what it means functionally for the brewery, it just means that we're using organic agricultural ingredients, organic cleaning, and pest control processes at the brewery. But otherwise, the beer is made the same way. So it's mostly just a lot of documentation on where our ingredients are coming from and our other supplies. But we do it mostly for farmers. The farmers that we've interacted with, most of them have converted from conventional to organic very intentionally, for a couple of main reasons. One, just to like avoid continuing to expose their families and neighbors to the amount of chemicals that they were putting on their crops when they were conventional farmers. And also just because it's more lucrative. So they're more likely to be able to make enough money to actually support their families without relying on government subsidies and things like that, because they're able to sell their product at a premium.
Interesting. Are you sourcing from, sort of the local where do you source from? Or are these farmers in our area? Tell us about that.
We made a commitment to do all of our malts and hops sourced from North America. Mm-hmm. That's about as local as we were able to get.
I was going to say, there is, I guess, they're only growing in certain spots, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's some climate conditions necessary. So all of our malted barley comes from Brees, which is in Wisconsin. And they grow throughout, their organic growers grow out throughout the upper Midwest. So a little bit into Canada, which is why we say North America instead of just the U.S. There's a little bit grown in like Saskatchewan and things.
Gotcha. And that's a product that like needs, I'm guessing, colder temperatures than we have down here.
Yeah, it needs the cooler temperatures. I believe it likes like the longer daytime in the summer. And yeah, so the barley is grown upper Midwest, and really the only place that we can get organic hops in the U.S. is in the Pacific Northwest. So most of our hops come from Washington State. But then to try to make sure that we use as many actually local products as possible, we use a lot of raw grains in our beer as well. So we use a number of raw grains that are grown in Illinois: wheat, oats, rye, corn, things like that. So you'll see those in a lot of our beers. And we like what they add to the beer, some softness, some complexity and the grain flavor there. But also we just like being able to use that as an outlet to support Illinois farmers. And all of the raw grains that we get are processed at Janie's Mill in Central Illinois.
Love that. So, I mean, it definitely is a larger step, a more complicated step to be organic. Why was it important? Why was it important to say we're ready to take that extra step, that extra mile to put that stamp on our beer?
Yeah, I mean, in addition to the benefit for farmers, it's just a more environmentally sustainable option. So it's really good for biodiversity. You're not killing off the good pests at the same time. And it's also better for our waterways. You're not having all of these chemicals introduced and going downstream in our waterways. And it also is, you could say it's better for your health too. Conventional beer that gets tested does still have glyphosate present in finished beer, which is Roundup. So if you're concerned about the amount of pesticides that you're consuming on a daily basis, which we all are, then consuming organic is always a good way to kind of reduce that. So I think that we just wanted to really produce as local and sustainable of a product as possible. And being organic was like a good way for us to be able to do that and offer like an outlet for us to kind of communicate that about our product to the public by having the organic logo on it.
When did you guys open?
We opened in 2015.
Okay. So happy 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, this is our 10-year year. So we do all of our like primary celebrating in March, which is when we had our grand opening. But we're celebrating a little bit throughout the year with various beer releases and things like that.
What made you decide to open a brewery?
Beer, of course.
The duh answer, yeah.
Yeah. So, for me, I think that I always kind of knew that I wanted to own a business, but I didn't necessarily know what it would be. At the time, my husband James and I were both working at Urban Chestnut Brewing Company in St. Louis. So I was their taste room operations and sustainability manager. So, operating their Midtown location and opening their Grove location and doing sustainability things for them. And he was working in the brewery there. And I think he just decided he didn't really want to work for anyone else. So he's quit and started putting together a business plan. And within...
Did you guys meet in the beer space?
No, we've been together since we were like 18 and 19. Aww. So we had been together for a while. We started working at Urban Chestnut together. But yeah, he put together the business plan, and within like 3 months we'd found the building. So it just kind of happened very quickly.
So the name obviously goes back to the building that you guys are in.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that space. How did you find it? What was the condition of it when you decided to turn it into a brewery?
Yeah, and we're also just really bad at names. So
or you're really good at it because it made sense.
Yeah, we had several names that we tossed around and they were all trademarked, and we kept referring to it as the Old Bakery, so it just stuck.
So it is an actual old bakery.
It's an actual old bakery in downtown Alton, Illinois. So it's kind of a prominent building on the riverfront in downtown Alton. So a lot of people were familiar with it. A lot of people remember it, especially as Colonial Bakery, which it operated as until the 80s.
Okay.
So people remember downtown smelling like bread and going on field trips there, things like that. So it was appealing to bring life to that, back to that building.
Had it stayed empty for a long time?
It was mostly empty. Very like minimal use. Like there's a big garage space that is now the brewery, and people talked about building Mardi Gras floats in there, or like a repo man owned it and just like stored people's repossessed things there. So some things like that, but the vast majority was in major disrepair. Every wall had to be sandblasted because there was just peeling paint on like every surface. All new HVAC, all new plumbing, all new electrical, kitchen, offices, bathrooms.
Was that
everything
overwhelming?
Had to be built out.
Of an idea when you were opening a brand new business?
Well, it would be overwhelming now. We were like 25.
Wow.
And
you're like, we
25,
can do this.
26. So yeah, we were like excessively confident about it probably.
Which that is probably one of the biggest things you need when opening a business is that confidence.
Yeah, sometimes I look back now and I'm like, why did we need 18,000 square feet again? But as a 25-year-old, it was like, we got this,
What was the hardest part about getting open?
What's the hardest part about getting open? I don't know. Again, it felt like it happened easily. We were very blessed to have James's dad, Randy Rogalski, was our partner in opening the business. And so he really helped kind of with some of the nitty gritty of just like setting up the corporation and helping us to get shareholders and things like that. So I feel like financing is often like one of the biggest hurdles, right?
Sure.
That would have been absolutely the most difficult thing for us to try to do on our own, but we had enough assistance, partnership and Randy there to get us off the ground with that was incredibly helpful. But yeah, I think that we were just so
like excited almost.
Excited and just like in this haze of being like a young person that people want to give money to do something.
Do you, now looking back 10 years later, what do you think that has really brought to the downtown Alton area to have this, long vacant building now be a thriving part of not only just that community, but really the whole Illinois region there.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think that we have brought a lot to our community. We have such a large space and we have an event space in addition to our dining room. So we try to offer a lot of programming. We try to do a lot of fundraising. But yeah, we do a lot of markets. So I feel like that has been really special. I feel like that's grown a lot since we opened, just small artisans and having a place to sell in Alton. So when we started out, we would do a few markets a year. Now we probably do 12 markets a year. We have a list of probably 150 vendors that rotate in and out throughout the year. But
why
in
was that
addition
important
to
you?
Well, partly just because we had the space and it seemed fun and it would bring customers in, right?
Absolutely.
So that's one end of it, but also just like to be able to support these artists and give them an outlet. And we've always done pay what you can events just to make it like a very accessible, like you can set up and sell. And even if you don't have the means to pay to be in a big art fair, But since then, there are numerous now in downtown Alton stores that are mostly like kind of co-op based experiences where the artists are able to sell. So I feel like it's been really fun. Not that we get a whole lot of credit for it, but it's been fun to just like see how much that market has grown in Alton since we started, and especially just like some of the artists that we know, like some of our events were the first times that they sold to the public, and then seeing them kind of thriving in these spaces is really exciting. But yeah, I know that we to some extent offer just a different kind of space than is available in Alton and a lot of other areas, and even just as simple as offering vegan and vegetarian options and things like that aren't as readily available in our community. We just try to make sure that we are, have a little something for everybody, but also kind of appeal to something that's a little different.
Because yes, in the name, you're a brewery, but you guys are a full-fledged restaurant as well. Yeah. When did the food component come into play? Did you know from the beginning that was going to be a, sort of a big part? Talk to us about where and how the food developed.
Yeah, it's definitely developed and grown over time. We've always had a kitchen, but coming from the experience of Urban Chestnut, which is very much like brewery first, half the people who go there don't eat. They're there for beer. And so that's kind of what we were expecting, right? We're going to have a kitchen to help get people in the door, increase tickets, make people stay longer, all of that kind of stuff. But really, we thought we're a brewery. We're a tasting room with a kitchen. And that, like, from day one was not our experience. So, like, 90+% of the people who come in eat.
Wow.
And so for every aspect of the business over time, that has had an impact, like just the hours that we keep. We close at 9 because we're not a bar. We're not really a tasting room. We're a restaurant.
Yeah.
And
you open early because you do breakfast.
We do brunch on Sundays now.
Oh,
yeah.
Sundays. Okay.
Yeah, we did just change the hours.
Okay.
So you were correct. Yeah.
I know I recently had a breakfast burrito there, and I was pretty sure it was on a Saturday.
Yeah. We do brunch on Sundays. We're open for lunch every day but Monday. And yeah, so just our menu has increased probably threefold or more since we opened. We've had to make a lot of additional investments in kitchen equipment and kind of grow and expand that space to really meet the need of the square footage that we have. So that definitely was a little bit of probably the biggest learning curve after we opened, was just like, oh, we really need to be ready to serve some food.
Kaldi's Coffee has been proudly roasting in St. Louis since 1994. Guided by a commitment to quality, service, and community, Kaldi strives to make every cup a moment of discovery. And get this, thanks to the support of their St. Louis community and fans across the country, they were named USA Today's #1 coffee chain in 2024. Visit Kaldi'sCoffee.com to find your nearest cafe, shop coffee for home, or even book a free tour and cupping at their roastery. Follow the goat to your next great coffee experience. Enjoy the rest of the episode. And you guys are one of those breweries that I always say is a brewery that has just as good of food as they do beer, which there's a lot of great breweries that have like some good food, some have great food, but like you guys have a really solid menu and lots of choices, which is nice.
you.
And you mentioned there's vegan, vegetarian. That's
Yeah.
not always the case at a brewery.
Yeah, definitely not. You definitely think of meat when you think of pairing food with beer. But, you know, my husband and I have gone back and forth being vegetarians like most of our adult lives. So that was, again, something that was just kind of important to us to like make sure we were appealing to that. And just knowing, especially with vegan options, that there isn't a lot available in Alton, just to be able to offer people some place to go and meet that need.
And you guys really do focus on a seasonal menu. You guys just launched your fall menu?
We do. We change the menu 3 to 4 times a year with the seasons. About half the menu stays the same. So, you know, if you just want a basic burger or a Reuben or a Cuban sandwich, BLT, we have all of these things that are available all the time.
Your favorites are going to be there all the time.
There are those like signature items that like if you want like a more traditional option, we're there. We got that, you know, and we've been serving those for so many years. Like they're, you know, honed in, they're great. But we always have fun switching up the other half of the menu just to like try some new flavors, put some new seasonal stuff out there and just kind of keep things interesting, especially for our regulars who come back and for our employees who eat there all the time.
Yeah.
I know we are probably the ones who look forward the most to the menu change.
So we're just flipping seasons. That also means, of course, seasonal beer. So let's dive into the beer. What are you guys launching this season?
Yeah. So our two kind of main releases are our Oktoberfest, of course. So we have to get that ball rolling early. So we do
people always forget that Oktoberfest really starts in September.
Yeah. Well, and just for distribution to like get it in the distributor's hands so that stores can start their programming and like everybody's ahead, you know, September 1, everybody's releasing fall menus and things. So you need to have all that kind of stuff in order a little earlier. I know people sometimes think it's crazy that people are releasing like Oktoberfest and pumpkin beer and stuff like that in July, but then the market necessitates it. So we did our Oktoberfest release party in late July. So that's pouring. It's our favorite seasonal that we make, our most popular seasonal. So you can find that now in stores throughout, in stores and bars and throughout the area and the brewery, of course. And then our throwback release. So for our 10th anniversary, we just kind of looked back at our 10 years of beer and like what are some beers that we have made a couple of times and we still get a lot of requests for, but like haven't made in a while. So our fall release for that throwback series is our Carrot Cake Brown Ale.
Yum.
So we did that a few years ago. Partly it was really inspired by, well, just fall and also wanting to include an additional ingredient that we could buy organic locally. So at the time, Earth Dance Farms was one of the only like certified organic farms in our area. So we were really thinking food crops, right? Like what can we include in a beer that they'd be able to grow? So we came on carrots.
Love it. Love Earth Dance.
Yeah.
They're great.
And they were great partners. This year we switched the carrot growing to Theodora Farms, which is in Alton, just to, you know, celebrate Alton a little bit more close to home. Since they're kind of more newly certified organic. I believe in 2023 they received their certification. So it's a brown ale with carrots, vanilla, cinnamon, nutmeg, ginger, clove, all of those kind of warming spices that you expect from a carrot cake and all of the fall desserts. So that's really fun, and it almost gives it a little bit of like a Belgian beer kind of quality just because it's so spice forward.
How often are you guys sort of creating new beers, you know, thinking up new ideas, things like that?
Yeah, so we do a lot of the planning in advance, mainly because we do put most of our beer releases, we at least put a little bit into cans. So can design timelines, getting designs done, getting them approved by our organic certifier, getting them approved by, you know, the TTB and the local liquor control, all that.
There's lots of steps.
And then ordering them. Yes, that's what I'm getting at. There's lots of steps. So we try to stay ahead of that and do most of our planning as annual planning. So actually we have our 2026 annual planning meeting tomorrow.
Oh,
so
brainstorming all the good ideas.
Yeah, brainstorming all of that. You know, trying to figure out if there's what's going to come back, what our new options are going to be, what collaborations we're going to do next year and all of that. But there are always a few beers that just kind of get sprinkled in throughout the year. So coming up in a few weeks, we participate in Mississippi Earth Tones Festival, which is a great kind of earth celebration on the riverfront in downtown Alton. And so we brewed a beer for them called Earth Tones IPA. And this year we used a little bit of Kernza in it as well, which is it's a sustainable, like perennial grain. So because it's perennial, it has very deeply rooted roots. And so it's better for drought control and carbon capturing, nitrogen capturing, all of that stuff. So that's kind of a relatively newly developed grain by the Land Institute. So we were excited to kind of tie that into the Earth Tones Festival. Seemed fitting. And it'll add just like a little bit of almost like a rye spiciness to the IPA. So that'll be coming out in a couple weeks at the Earth Tones Festival as well.
I'm curious, when we think about beer's obviously been around for a very long time. Is it hard to, I don't know, move into the future, trying new things, new grains, things like that? Or do you think it's sort of vital for the industry to kind of capture something new into this beverage that's been around for a long time?
I feel like it's almost reached a point, because let's be honest, like craft beer jumped the shark a little bit, right? So like there are a lot of weird things getting put out there. It doesn't need to have chunks in it.
Oh God, no, I hope not. No, I'm not interested in that. No, thank you.
But as brewery owners, as brewers, I think that one of the conversations we have most years is like, can we brew more beer flavored beer? And I actually think that, for most of our lifespan as a brewery, it's just been kind of the light and fruity is like one of our main kind of categories, our best selling beers. I think that's partly just true of the market that we're in Alton. But this year in particular, we've seen a shift towards like our beer flavored beers are the ones that are selling the best as well. So that's
funny. Beer flavored beer. I mean, that if you think about that, it sounds like hysterically simple, but when we did see this huge like push to like funky, crazy flavors, people maybe do just say like, I just kind of want a beer that tastes like a beer.
Yeah, and I think that it doesn't always work, when you're trying all of these experiments and things. Carrot cake brown ale works, just to be clear.
Just to be clear, that's not too
weird. That
works
works great. It's just weird enough. Don't worry about that. We'll still put some weird stuff out there. But I think that probably partly just because of the economy and people want to be careful with their spending and things like that. But people have become less likely to want to spend beer, especially if they have to buy a whole 4-pack. Yeah. They don't necessarily want to spend money on a beer that they don't know if they're going to like or not. But people are more easily able to say, like, I know I like Pilsner. I know I like brown ale. I know I like Oktoberfest. And you can only go so wrong, right? So I think it's partly just that, just partly driven by that taste preference of wanting to know what you're getting and wanting to know that it's going to be good and worth the money that you spent on the 4-pack.
Or you could come to the brewery and just taste them.
And taste all of them. Yeah. You should do that and then take home several 4-packs.
Yes.
So I think we're going to see in our planning meeting tomorrow, that's my prediction, is that a lot of our planning will be oriented around focus on beer-flavored beer. We'll definitely throw some fruit and some stuff and some spices and some stuff and keep it fun and interesting. But I think that will be a smaller portion of our, I guess, portfolio than it has been maybe. And in terms of keeping things like new and innovative and using new ingredients, that is to some extent one handicap that we have as an organic brewery. Yeah. Especially with hops, because I feel like right now hops is probably the main area that brewers get to play with that a lot. There's constantly new varieties coming out, and especially with, the hazy IPA trend and things like that. Like, people want to experience these new hops.
Are there not organic hops that kind of lend themselves to the hazy category?
Not super well. No, we have, and just not nearly the diversity of hop options. So we do have, some hop varieties that impart some guava, mango, like tropical fruit flavors. But they tend to be a little bit more subtle, a little bit less distinct. A lot of the hops that we have lean towards maybe like more of a citrusy quality, which is great, but it's a little more of like a West Coast IPA, American, like historic IPA trends, right? So we just don't get, I mean, half the time now, if you go to a brewery, the hops don't even have names yet. They're just numbers, right? Like we don't have access to those.
Okay, interesting.
So ours are more familiar, you know, Centennial, Cascade, Azaka, like these hops that have been around for a long time.
What is your bestseller?
Our best selling is our citrus wheat beer. So it's brewed with Illinois grown wheat. Thank you. It's just super drinkable. It's got some lemon peel, orange peel, and coriander. I think the name scares some people away because they're like, I don't want fruit in my beer. I don't want citrus. But really, it's subtle citrus and it's just really soft. Nice. It's
There's
really soft and drinkable. You can add a lemon, would be great. But yeah, it's just super approachable and easy to drink. Soft, well-rounded.
Do you have a favorite beer that you guys have brewed in your 10-year span?
Oh, in our whole 10 years. One of my favorites that we've done was our Hairy Mountain Mint Stout. It's been several years, like pre-pandemic for sure. It was probably within the first few years that we were opened, that we did a series of events with a local nature preserve called the Nature Institute.
I love that place.
Yeah, it's
actually
amazing.
When I came to breakfast, that's where we went afterwards, and it's such a great spot for kids. It's such good hiking trails.
Really nice.
Put it on your list, folks.
It is very good. There's nature-based playground for the kids and really nice trails and little waterfalls and everything. Really nice.
Vista to see the river.
So it's a really nice place, and we did a series where we did a cask night with them, like every Friday for a few months, and people got to vote on which beer they liked the best. So for each cask, we were adding a native ingredient that you could find on the Nature Institute property. We should do it again. It was a lot of work, but it was fun.
That's really cool, though.
Someday we'll do it again. And anyway, the beer that won was the Hairy Mountain Mint Stout that was brewed with Hairy Mountain Mint. And we actually harvested a lot of it for the beer from a prairie property that they manage, and supplemented it with some other types of mint as well. But I just thought that was really good. I like stout, and the mint, I like mint chocolate kind of vibes. And the mint was also subtle enough that it wasn't crazy.
Yeah.
We are doing, kind of inspired by that, we're doing a peppermint version of our porter this winter.
I also
so
really
think
love
that'll
your
be fun.
porter.
Thank you.
It's a really good one.
Thanks. Yeah, that's one of our, I would say that's like our beer nerds' favorite old bakery beer, you know?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a really solid, but I also feel like it's a nice sort of like easing into a darker beer kind of beer.
Yeah.
You mentioned that sometimes your beer choices are dictated by the region, and you kind of have to look to your customers of what they're looking for as opposed to maybe what you or the brewers might really want to brew. How do you balance that desire of like, oh, we want to try this, but we also know what our customers are looking for?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. I think that I personally, especially just like I lean a little bitter for the general public. You know, I like our double stout was one of my favorite beers that we've done. That and our super pils, our Pilsner, which also the public seems to really enjoy, which is great because I'm going to keep brewing it. But so I lean a little bitter maybe for like just general like taste preference across the board. And so I just keep that in mind. I think for me personally, I just know that I have weird taste in general, like in everything in life. So I don't expect that I get to do what I want to do, you know? So we pay attention just to like what's been selling well, both in distribution and at the restaurant, you know, to some extent watch trends and things like that as well. And just try to like dot in a few things that like keep us happy while also appealing to a wider audience.
As you celebrate 10 years and look ahead to what the next 10 years brings, what's your hope for the future at Old Bakery?
Oh, you know, that's an interesting question. Without getting into too much, we've just, everything. That's a hard question. We're going to be around and it's going to be fun. And, you know, I think that, you know, the craft beer market has changed a lot since we opened. And I think for us, it's just really reminded us to focus heavily on our restaurant and our event space. And so I think that any, you know, expansion that you see from us will be more so in those realms. and, other beverage options. We already have our herbarium sparkling tea brand, but maybe some more non-alcoholic products, things like that. It would be great to expand into that. And, maybe someday a second location, but we're just kind of, going with the flow for now.
You guys are really community based. You talk a lot about how you are a sort of a community hub. How important is that community, not only in just the sort of Illinois local region, but as a craft brewery for this entire sort of like metro region of St. Louis and the Metro East?
Yeah, we love our Alton community. They've been really supportive, but it's also really fun to get to talk to people who come into the bar and, they made the trip from Springfield, Illinois, or St. Louis, or Edwardsville, or St. Charles, or wherever they might be coming from. Like, that feels really special that they were like willing to like take that detour in their day to come see us. So we really appreciate that. And I think the craft beer, industry will always be really special in that it's way more community based. It's way more friendly than just like the restaurant community is. I think it's just, not to say the restaurant community is not friendly. They're very friendly as well, but just a little more tight knit because it just feels less competitive in some ways, I think, because we all kind of have our niche and so many of the breweries being like of a very similar age and half of us have worked in another one of our spaces or we're regulars at each other's. I think that's really special. And we really appreciate getting to be part of like the broader St. Louis craft beer market. But yeah, I think that our Alton community is really kind of our hub, our people. We appreciate their support and getting to, support our local charitable organizations through fundraising and kind of keep expanding our event programming and all of that to appeal to what they like to do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, let's dive into what's going on this week all around the St. Louis area. Here is your weekly calendar. This Wednesday is the St. Louis Symphony's kickoff concert. It is free in Forest Park, happening Wednesday, September 17th. The Balloon Glow is this Friday, September 19th in Forest Park. And of course, the big balloon race is Saturday, the 20th. The South Grand Fall Festival is also Saturday, September 20th. And you heard right here in this episode, you can try that collaborative beer with Old Bakery Beer at Mississippi Earth Tones Festival. That's happening on Saturday, September 20th. As always, don't forget to subscribe to What's New in the Lou with Alexis Zotos so you can stay in the know of everything happening in the St. Louis region. Thanks for listening.